Call this meeting, Planning and Zoning Commission, to order. Dorothy, would you take roll, please?
Yes, sir. Garrett Harmon,
Here.
Rustin Zuber,
Here.
Tricia Byram,
Here.
sorry, David Jones,
Here.
David Lipscomb,
Present.
Cliff Tuttle,
Here.
Hunter Patterson.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy. Item 1 on the agenda is minutes from the January 2nd meeting. Commissioners have any questions or comments on those minutes? If not, I'll accept the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Got a motion
I'll second.
and a second. All in favor of approval of the minutes, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. All right, and I'd just like to take a quick moment and welcome Hunter Patterson,
Thank you.
new commissioner. Appreciate your service. All right, item 2 on the agenda, public hearing and consideration on a zoning change. Drew?
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Public hearing, consideration, and action to recommend an ordinance to change the zoning from R2 Medium Density Residential District to RM Residential Mixed District on approximately 15.51 acres. 1 acre out of Survey 110 Thomas Mentner, Certificate number 38, Abstract 248, and 14.51 acres out of Survey 111 Samuel Wallace, Certificate 1399, Abstract 359. Generally located at 199 Spur 100. There's a zoomed in aerial of the property. With that, I'll turn it over to the applicant, and I'll present my staff comments before the public hearing.
Okay.
Really, good afternoon. Thank you for your consideration. I'd just like to say that I'm requesting the zoning change on this property. The property is currently on the market for sale, has been for quite some time. Under the previous zoning code, there were a multitude of uses that were allowed as an E29 district, including residential of several different varieties, single family, multifamily, and some light commercial uses also. But with the zoning code change in October of 2019, we were reclassified, which would still permit the residential uses, but would exclude any of the commercial and also would exclude multifamily. Since the property's been on the market and we were trying to appeal to a rather broad, undetermined audience, but as broad as possible, we were somewhat limited in what we could do or what any potential buyer might be able to do in terms of development with the new zoning code or the new zoning designation. So I currently have some interest in the property, and they would like to do a project that might fall into that multifamily consideration. So that's the reason for the code change request.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
The property currently is in the agriculture and outdoor tourism area of the future land use plan, Kerrville 2050 plan. The future land use plan, including those place types, are not specific to zoning. The R2 is consistent with that, as it includes the single family as one of the uses within that place type. The RM is also mostly consistent with the AOT, agriculture, outdoor tourism, because it does include those single family, different types of housing, but single family homes. It also includes the multifamily, as Brian mentioned. Here's the current zoning. As you can see around it is public and institutional uses. You have the VA hospital, 2 cemeteries, county road and bridge, and then the ball fields kind of catty corner across Spur 100. There's the land use table of the two uses or two districts in comparison. Get you a zoomed in version with the differences throughout that chart. You do add the permitted use for a dormitory, sorority or fraternity house, multifamily dwellings. It does have conditional use for guidance services instead of permitted use. Manufactured homes, subject to Article 9, which is the supplementary requirements, and RV park or trailer park as a conditional use. Again, kind of tying back to that outdoor tourism, it would have that option as a conditional use. Current property is zoned R2 as vacant land. Again, the zoning around it is public and institutional. Property has direct access from Spur 100. And then any traffic impact will be dependent upon the actual use that we look at, as well as parking. Based on the policies within the Kerrville 2050 plan, to include these additional variety of housing types, staff recommends the request for your approval. I'd be pleased to answer any questions before or after the public hearing.
Any questions before we start the public hearing? Okay, at 4:36, open the public hearing. Anyone with questions or comments, please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one approach, close the public hearing at 4:37. Commissioners, any questions for Drew?
Are there other zones other than RM that allow multifamily?
The only other district would be R3, which is multifamily only. And then actually C3 does allow for multifamily, which is our heavy commercial or general commercial district. So by switching to R3, it would limit it to multifamily only. And with, as Mr. McClarty said, he's looking for a little broader pitch for the marketing of the property and didn't feel that was the best approach.
RM allows mobile homes?
It does. Also, there are specific requirements. There are some specific requirements that come with the manufactured housing. Of course, there are still required permits. Cannot modify those permits with any other kind of regulations. The tongue and towing gear, axles, and wheels shall be removed so that they are more or less permanent structures once they are placed. Vacant space between the property and the trailer has to be built up with finishes that match the building so that there is no visible gap and opening between them. They are required to meet setbacks and parking requirements, and they are required to be on a permanent foundation. And then the exterior door cannot be obstructed by a carport. So if they had any carports, have to be offset from the doorway. And they are required to have porch with steps and again, unobstructed by any parking spaces or carports or garage, so that you do have that separation from the structure itself. So in addition to that, as they go through any mobile home subdivision or a mobile home park, there are density requirements, lot size requirements, fairly consistent with the R2 and R1 standards. So a lot of the existing RV parks that we have in town are actually much denser than the code allows now for a new one.
Commissioners, any other questions or thoughts?
Well, I just feel that this is the essence of what we're supposed to be doing after the great zoning change that we've had, you know. And we'll have these cases that staff's worked on and tried to place and whatever else, but we need to take a real look, but try to put everything in its proper place. And I think this is something that looks.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to get kind of back to where it was before the zoning change.
Right.
And
We
this
don't
is as
have a
close as we-
district that truly matches up with the E29 because it was light commercial and several different housing types, other than the mixed-use district, which requires some concept planning and other pieces, again, that would have an end user in sight at that time of the request. Mr. McClarty has been proposing and marketing this as more of a housing piece. That's why we looked at the R2 originally. The RM, or the E29 did not allow for manufactured housing. So through the zoning process, we did not look at RM as one of the options. But that's why Mr. McCarty has brought that forward, is to pick up the multifamily. And if there is a possibility of manufactured housing, again, it has to follow all those other standards.
Yeah, that was a concern that I had as well, Rustin, was the mobile homes. But I think with those additional standards that we placed on it, there are some mobile home parks in the area that are pretty nice and kept up well, and that adds, you know, another level of affordable housing that that is needed. And I think that with the proximity to 27, Highway 27, having, you know, that commercial availability is a good idea. With Road and Bridge right there, we have a credit union, I kind of think that there's, you know, some limited commercial would be a viable product for this site also.
There's a little cemetery, right? Is that what I'm seeing? That, okay.
That's the
Zoom in a little closer.
National Cemetery for the VA.
Kerrville National Cemetery, and there's also another, I guess, private cemetery right next to it.
Any other questions, or do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the zoning change as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Very good. Item 3A on the agenda, consideration and final action on a replat. Drew?
Thank you, sir. Consideration, final action concerning replat of lot number 11 and part of lot number 12 and block 18 of the J.A. Tybee addition within the city limits of Kerrville, Kerr County, Texas, generally located at 1216 Water Street. Existing lot is kind of an L-shaped lot there, looking to divide those into two separate lots, one fronting C Street, one fronting Water Street. There is one existing building on Water Street. You can see the kind of growth area. There used to be a building along C Street. The only comment or condition of approval is to amend the labels to say as platted instead of as platted and vacating. They're not vacating the entire plat, so it's just a replat of that existing plat. Staff recommends approval.
All right. This item doesn't require a public hearing. Commissioners, any questions?
So it's 2 lots into 3, is that correct?
One lot into two. Sorry, the existing corner lot is not changing.
Okay, right,
Well,
right.
Yeah. This part of 12 is not changing.
Right.
This, got away from me. This lot here is being split into 11R and 12R.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Any questions, or do I hear a motion?
I will make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Item 3B on the agenda is consideration and final action on another replat.
This replat being Lot 1, Block 1 of Gilkey Edition, City of Kerrville, Kerr County, Texas. establishing lots 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D, Block 1, the Gilkey Edition. Plat is consistent with the zoning code and the subdivision ordinance. They're taking this one lot at the corner of Park Street and C Street and dividing that into 4 separate lots that will front C Street instead. A few conditions of approval, amend as platted and vacated to label as platted. Again, they're not vacating the entire subdivision. Title block needs to say establishing lots 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D of Block 1, Gilkey Edition. The original draft had lots, I think, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Amend note 4, the current property is zoned R1. Add the Planning and Zoning Commission signature block since it is going before the commission. Water and sewer mains are required to be extended to serve the new lots. The applicant has been working with Public Works. Water is coming from Park Street, sewer is coming from the abandoned railroad right away. And with those main extensions, the utility easement will likely not be required, so that can be removed. With those conditions, staff recommends approval.
Utilities are in C Street? or
Utilities are
likely
in
to
Park
C
Street. So the utilities are basically set up to serve that as one lot fronting Park Street.
Right.
So they will be required to extend utilities along C Street with those new lots fronting C Street. So short extensions, but they are public main extensions because there are multiple lots being served.
Is there a concern about fire access down C Street to that last lot, since there's not a turnaround?
With it being such a short street, there is not a concern. It's existing right-of-way. It's 50-foot wide right-of-way, so they'd be able to pull in and still get full access around the home and be able to back out and turn around.
This is C Street, and this is Park Street. Is there an existing home on that?
No, there was
That's just an old aerial?
Yeah, older aerial. There's
Okay.
a shed back here.
Gotcha.
But the shed's gone already, right? Yeah. Yeah, this shed is gone. This is the old railroad right-of-way. And just north, this is right where Aransas Street meets Main Street.
Is that a swimming pool? Not a tank or anything, I mean.
Yeah, it's a above-ground swimming pool.
My kind
I
of
don't think I
pool.
want to swim in it. Looks a little green to me.
All right.
I'd assume it was taken during the winter time with the leaf off. Probably not keeping it up.
All right, any other thoughts or questions? Do I hear a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the lot.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. And item 3C is consideration and action concerning amendment to the preliminary plat of Vintage Heights.
Yes, sir. Preliminary plat of Vintage Heights being a certain tract of a parcel comprising of approximately 184.75 acres out of the Nathaniel Hoyt survey, number 147, abstract 178, 41.01 acres out of the John A. Southmaid survey, number 148, abstract 288. Total approximately 225.76 acres, city of Kerrville, Kerr County, Texas. Generally located along Medina Highway, south of River Hill Boulevard. The commission has seen this plat before, as the zoning continued on to city council. The developer worked with city council on a development agreement, worked with River Hill as well and their homeowners association to come up with some concessions, and that development agreement was triggered some of the plat changes. Since they did change the layout of the street system, wanted to bring that plat back to the commission for approval again as an amendment to the preliminary plat. The plat that is in your backup is the original plat that was approved in December. And so I'll go through a few of the pages. I won't go through all 17 pages of the plat, but a few of the pages where we had some key changes from the development agreement that council approved in January. So this is where the connection with Green Tree Boulevard was proposed. Green Tree Boulevard will now dead end into a fence. Instead of carrying that street through, they've done this turnaround to connect these two streets. This would have been the connection with Hickory Hills. And again, they ended that in a corner with two large corner lots. And this would have been the connection of Ridgewood Drive as it would have carried through. Again, just turning that and making some adjustments to some of the retention ponds. There's currently is Champagne Lane as it continues down towards the water tower. The water tower, existing water tower, is located here. They do have a new access point located here for the city access to the water tower and to Kerrville Shriner Park, since we'll be removing that easement that runs on the back side of these lots.
So again, you're removing the easement?
There's an existing easement that runs down the property line for city access to the water tower. Since these lots will be backing up directly to Kerrville Shriner Park, we're removing that easement. Primary access will be from the street, and then from this access easement at the end of that block of lots. So we're not going back behind the houses between backyards and the park. Parks is comfortable with this access point so that they can get to the backside of Kerrville Shriner Park if needed. Parks will likely install a gate to be able to have access there. Locked gate just for parks access and emergency access. We'll work through the final details of that easement and access points with the different grades or final grading beyond this retaining wall. This piece is actually dedicated as parkland for the subdivision and carries down to this location here. And we'll need to work through some easement language with the developer, again, for access, because this is also bordering Kerrville Shriner Park. This lot right here between the collector and the park has the existing water line and water line easement. And so that continues down that collector. We'll work with the developer on some access easement language so that if Parks does need to access, don't anticipate any kind of a driveway or gate, but just that we do have access to the backside of the park if we need to, whether it's for emergency access or maintenance. Couple conditions similar to the last approval. Street names will be reviewed with Kerr 911 and finalized with the final plat. And we'll need to coordinate with the city those access easements to gain access to Kerrville Shriner Park as needed. The development agreement that City Council approved did include some waivers that we talked about during the zoning process and the plat process in December, that the streets would not connect to River Hill. That was one waiver. That they're not going to provide a turnaround for the existing street stubs. They'll just dead end as they do today. And then they do have a few over-length cul-de-sacs as a part of the overall design that required the waiver approval. Primarily this street in phase 2, based on topography, there is no way to get down because you're kind of on the ridge line of that hill. There's no way to get down and meet any required street grades. So basically that long tail and that T intersection does only have one means of egress. No concern from a fire code standpoint, but just a subdivision waiver on those 3 waivers. Other part of the development agreement with the closure of those streets to River Hill, this big red line here, which was the collector and then the future arterial, will be installed as a fire lane access easement from the first phase, so that the fire department does have access through that as their secondary means of egress with the initial phase of the subdivision. So that'll start off as just a fire lane access easement, likely kind of a caliche road rated to withstand the fire truck. As phase 2 comes in, that'll be dedicated as public street and built out as a collector, and half of the arterial coming off Highway 16. Staff recommends it for your approval. I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Quick question. At the end of where Green Tree used to connect,
Mhm.
there's like a little bump there. I'm assuming the fence line will come across and not follow that bump. Right there.
That is my assumption.
Right.
Yeah, okay. And then you can see, I think you can see on your screens, there's actually a little hashed cul-de-sac in there. That right of way
was the-
was dedicated with the original development agreement. Part of the development agreement is that they go back and remove those right-of-way easements. So those will be removed at the courthouse so that they'll be able to put these lots in.
But the little bump out is part of the subdivision, is it?
Part of this subdivision,
Being dedicated.
being dedicated as right-of-way, okay, that's what I thought.
So it will be, the fence will come and make that cutout?
It'll go straight across like it's not even, that bump out's not even there.
Okay,
So instead of having this remainder, we'll just dedicate that as part of Green Tree right of way. Only, we won't have, sorry, Mike Wellborn, 631 Water Street. So we're just dedicating that as right of way, basically giving it to River Hill.
you said that main access road, though, will be Caliche initially?
It's just a temporary access road, yes.
But it
When-
will be the main road into the construction?
No, excuse me, sorry. That's just that red portion,
Oh,
and that is the secondary means of
Gotcha,
egress for
okay,
the fire
all right.
department.
yeah, because unintended consequence, I mean, that'll, for in terms of timing, you're gonna fence it off first, because right now you can get into the, come through River Hill and go into your property, so that's gonna happen first, right?
No.
16.
As far as construction traffic coming in, that was part of the development agreement. We can't do that, and we will have all of our contractors, that will be barricaded, and they will be informed
Well-
with penalties if they drive through there.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? We have a motion.
I will move that we approve the changes to the preliminary plat as presented.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. All right, item 4 is the staff report.
We do not have another meeting in February. We'll meet back March 5th. Yes, March 5th. We do have 5 zone cases to look at, and we'll see how many plats we end up with.
Here they come.
'Tis the season.
Yes, sir.
All right.
We are working on the subdivision ordinance draft from the consultant. Code Review Committee meets February 20th for their first look at the rewrite of the subdivision ordinance. And then we'll see if they are comfortable with it or if they want a second look at it, and then eventually bring that through Planning Commission and on to City Council.
All right. All right. Any other items, commissioners? All right, at 4:59, meeting is adjourned.